Good morning and welcome to another Breath Library session. Today we are going to be looking at how we assess our own breathing right now. And so we're going to run through, there's 4 different ways that we can assess our breathing, which are all pretty simple. You don't need anything else other than your breath. But before we get started, I'm just going to have a quick recap on last week, and that was all about how to breathe slowly and everything that we can do to slow down that breath and why it's important to do that. I also set the challenge of practicing slowing down your breaths. So an exercise of just bringing that down to breathing in for 4, holding it, and then exhaling it for 6. So we'd love to know how you've got on with that, if you had sort of taken part in that little bit of a challenge. But that's totally fine because we set a new challenge every week. So before we get started, there's also another fantastic announcement to make. We are, when I say we, the part of the company that I'm from, Beam, we are going live on the Breath Source app, which is one of the fastest growing apps that are all focused on breathing, and they have some incredible instructors from all around the world teaching lots of different styles of breathwork. So we have instructors that are teaching sort of traditional yogic breathing and pranayama. There's Soma breathwork. There's Oxygen Advantage. There's conscious connected breathing. There is there's a whole selection, and it is a great place to find a daily practice. But the great thing is that on Saturday, or the 1st of July, both me and Leanne are joining the the Breath Source app. So there will be a link in the comments to this, so you can link and download it on Android or iOS. And you can open up a free account and get breathing with us. So this week is going to be focused, like I said, on assessing your own breathing. So the first test that we're going to go through is called the BOLT test. I'll explain that in a minute. Then we're going to go through the respiratory rate test. Then we're going to do something called a maximum CO2 exhale. And then I'm going to demonstrate as best I can the maximum breathlessness test. But this really requires some outside space. But I will let you know how it goes and refer you to other videos on the channel to be able to follow it whilst you're outside. So first of all, we're going to look at the BOLT test, and this stands for the Body Oxygen Level Test. And this test is a chance for you to have a look at how your breathing is right now. If you were to, the best time to do this test is first thing in the morning. So that's great if you're tuning in now. Because before doing this test, we would like to be in a nice resting state first. So the Body Oxygen Level Test is an indicator of how quickly our body sort of builds up and tolerates CO2 in the body, and this is a great indicator of how what level of functional breathing we are at. So in order to do this test, this is suitable for everyone. So everyone can take part in this. It's best to do this test sitting. You can do it standing or laying down, but best to do it sitting. Make sure you haven't just run up the stairs or anything. Just, this is something to make sure that you're resting, so you get the nice, if you were to do this test over and over again over weeks, then you will get a similar result and definitely for how you're breathing right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in through the nose, out through the nose, taking a normal breath, and then we're going to pinch our nose. And then we're going to go into a breath hold. Now, this isn't a very long breath hold. This isn't a competition of how long you can hold your breath. This isn't, like it really isn't a competition. What we're doing is we're looking for that first involuntary movement that happens in our body. And what I mean by that is when you're holding your breath, do you feel like you need to swallow? Do you feel like any sort of movement down here near the diaphragm? Or is it your brain just telling you, I think it's time to breathe now? These are the first signs of your body telling you that you need to breathe. And that is when we're going to release. We're going to take a breath in through the nose and then just return to normal breathing. What we're going to do is we're going to time that breath hold. And this will be an indication on the scale, and I'll explain the results afterwards. And so this will be, this will give us an indication of how we're breathing right now. So let's get ready. What we'll do is I will count. The easiest way is, so when we go to pinch, I will count, and then you just remember where you had to release your nose and start breathing. Okay. Just take a few normal breaths in and out through the nose whilst I'm getting ready. So take a breath in through the nose, out through the nose, and pinch. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Release your nose and breathe in if you've got this far. Okay, I'll stop the timer. So if when you release your nose, you had to take a big gasp, then you might have done it a little bit too long. So give it a few minutes. If you had to take a big breath in after holding your nose, then just give it a few minutes and try again and see where you get. It's all a rough indication of where you are right now. And so depending on what you got, we only counted up to 30 seconds, but really we're aiming to get to about 40 seconds, and that comes with a lot of practice. So if you got below 25 seconds, there's an 89% chance that you show signs of dysfunctional breathing. Now, don't worry, there's exercises that we're going to cover next week that will help bring that score up so you can create a functional breathing pattern. If you got above 25, then great. Then you've got a great foundation of breathing, and you have an 89% chance of having functional breathing, according to the research. So this is a good place to be. Don't worry, your score for your Bolt test will change all the time. Throughout my years of being an instructor, I've had low scores when I've been trying to get over some like illness or COVID, and it's been down to 8 seconds. But it has also, with a lot of practice, has been above 30. So it is an indication of how my body is right now and my breathing is right now. So don't get too fixated on your score that you got today, because there are things that we can do to improve it. Okay, so it might be a good idea to take a note of that score, because then, in the coming weeks, then you can practice this again, and you will be able to see an improvement. So the next test that we're going to do to test our breathing is the respiratory rate test. And this is all focused around how many breaths we're taking per minute. And this is an important number to know because, the sort of the breaths per minute that we should be taking on average as an adult at a resting pace should be between 10 and 12. Now, it is still considered normal between 9 and 15. And I'll let you know what you can do if you get those sorts of scores. But what we're going to do is right now, while we're nice and rested, we are just going to count our breaths. Okay. So this is all through the nose as well. So what we're going to do is just for 1 minute, starting when the timer gets to 11 minutes, we will count our breaths in and out as one. So get ready to start. Breathe in and start counting your breaths. So remember, breathe in and out counts as one. A nice, normal pace. For this, there's no need to try and control the breath. What we're doing is looking for a nice average right now, today. So again, this is an indicator of how you are breathing right now. And when you come back to doing this test in coming weeks, then you will see an improvement after doing some of the exercises that we'll cover. Okay, 5 seconds. And stop. So now we've counted your breaths for a minute. Like just if you have, take a note of that, of how many breaths you were taking. Were you round about 10 to 12 breaths, which is sort of considered the average for an adult resting state? Or were you a little bit higher? Were you maybe 15 seconds? Then that might be an indicator that you are breathing too fast, too much at a resting state. So what we can do is we will practice slowing down the breath. Like the session that we covered last week, we'll practice slowing down the breath. So we will learn how to control our breaths per minute. Okay. So this is another test that we'll be coming back to. But so the next way that you can test your breath is by doing the maximum CO2 exhale. Now, this one is a little bit like the Bolt test, apart from we're going to be using our maximum capabilities of breathing in and out. So what we're going to do is during the test, we are going to breathe in, out, and then we're going to breathe in as much as we can. And then we're going to take a slow, controlled exhale. And we are going to breathe out for as long as we possibly can, as slow as we possibly can, until our lungs are empty. And this will then take us on, and I'll explain the results afterwards, and this will take us on to knowing how that we can practice to improve our breath this way as well. So you don't have to do all these tests. These are just a nice selection of to find out how your breathing is right now. So as we are nice and rested, what I'd like you to do is, again, I will count. I will let you know roughly every sort of 5 seconds where you are on that exhale. And so you just have to focus on slowing that breath out as long as you possibly can. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is take a normal breath in and a normal breath out. And now take a full breath in. Fill those lungs as much as you can. And now start the exhale. Slowly, controlled, as long as you can. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Just keep going as long as you can. 15 seconds. 20 seconds, 25 seconds, 30 seconds, 35 seconds, 40 seconds, 45 seconds. What I'm going to do is we're just going to stop there. If you have got above 45 seconds, that's fantastic. But I'd like you to know roughly whereabouts you were. It's just an indication, a rough indication of how long you can exhale for. So now going on what you got, if you got below 20 seconds, then that you have is an indication that you have a low tolerance to the buildup of CO2. So you need to remember the score of 3. If you got between 21 and 40 seconds, you have a moderate tolerance to the buildup of CO2. So you need to remember the score between 4 and 5. And if you had 40 seconds or above, that's great. Then you have a higher tolerance to CO2. Then you need to remember the numbers between 8 and 10. So these scores represent how you can practice. So now this would indicate that if you had we'll go for the low tolerance to CO2, then this is, and your score was 3, then the way to practice to improve your breathing, based on studies found that that you need to practice box breathing with 3 seconds. So there are a load of box breathing videos on this channel, and find the one with 3 seconds or 4 seconds, and you need to start practicing this daily. So you breathe in for 3, you hold for 3, you breathe out for 3, and then you hold for 3, and you repeat this cycle. And you would need to repeat this cycle and practice for about 10 minutes every day, and you'll start to see an improvement. Okay, so that is the maximum CO2 exhale. I quite like doing that one. But yeah, again, it's an indicator of how you're doing today. So practice, incorporate breathing into your daily routines, and you'll see a nice improvement. So the last one that we're going to do, and we're going to touch on quite quickly, is the maximum breathlessness test. Now, you need a lot of space for this, so I'm going to demonstrate inside on the spot. So what we're going to do is, to do this, we're going to just take a few normal breaths in and out, and then I'm going to breathe in, and then we're going to breathe out, much like the Bolt test, and then we're going to pinch our nose, and then we're going to count our steps. So we are going to go as long as we possibly can until we need to breathe. And then we're going to control that breath in and out when we release our nose. But what we're doing is we are looking to count the amount of steps that we're able to take on that exhale. Now, this is a practice. This one is probably the one that needs the most practice, because then we get used to, when we're doing these breath holds, we get used to the buildup of CO2, and this is a way that we can start retraining our own breathing. So let's give it a go. What we'll do is I'm just going to give you a quick demo, but then when you have the chance, take this outside and do this yourself. So what I'd like to do is take a breath in, take a breath out, and then, even if it's on the spot, what we're trying to do is we're trying to engage metabolic activity. We're trying to increase that buildup of CO2 and get our body really used to it as well. But this is a test of how far that we can go. And it's nice because you're able to count your steps. It's a lot you probably find that you're able to do more on the spot than you are when you're outside, because it takes quite a lot to move your whole body compared to just moving on the spot. So what we're going to do is we're just going to end it there, just so you've got an idea of how to do the maximum breathlessness test when you're outside, maybe, you know, in a car park or in a park, or, you know, whilst taking the dog for a walk. So that is the maximum breathlessness test, and these are all great ways. So the BOLT test, the body oxygen level test, respiratory rate test, the maximum CO2 exhale, and the maximum breathlessness test. They're all ways for you to find out how well you are breathing right now. So thank you for joining. My challenge to you for the next week is to try some of these and see where you are. You know, it might be a good idea to do the BOLT test one day and then the maximum CO2 another day. So then you get an idea of roughly how well your breathing is during, you know, during different times of the week or month. Next week, we're going to be looking at breathing light. So we're going to be focusing on breathing less to breathe more. And I'll explain more next week. And don't forget, this weekend, 1st of July, we're joining the BreathSource app. So pop on through that link and download the app, and you can breathe with us and many more right on your phone. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.